I watched it live. It was actually funny as shit. I actually didn't see, like, I was watching the game, but I didn't notice Klay and Jaden were going at it until like the crowd jumped in it, and then you just see Draymond just hook him right by the neck. It was like the hooking part, whatever. But like the dragging him, like he wanted to really hurt him and then put him.
He was
that was
trying
like,
to get him to
yeah,
tap.
it was like, what are you doing? Like, okay, you hooked him because from your angle you see Klay getting hooked, whatever, that's fine. But then like the dragging after was like, why are you doing that? And then like I've never seen a Draymond incident like Joe Star mentioned, where Kerr is right there, like, Dre, stop. Like, what do you like? They've Kerr. That's like, in my opinion, that's the first time that maybe my memory's fucked up, but that I've seen Kerr really be there. Like, Dre, you're bugging right now. Stop. Like, usually he's just like, it's Draymond, whatever. But that was the moment. He's like, what do you? And Dre's there. Ants behind him, cats behind. He's just still. And if you see Dre's face, he's like, yeah, like he's really like in the hood, like tell him like I really yoke you up. Like he's wild. And it's like, what did Rudy do that was so like made you do that? Oh. And Dre, he got suspended in the Cleveland game for his regular Dre antics. And then this one was just like, I'm surprised they gave him 5 games. I'll be honest, I was waiting for like 10, 15. I was in the crib waiting. Like, he's done this before. He stomped on somebody in the playoffs. They're going to give him like 15 games. But then when I came out and it was 5, and then I seen everything after it, it was kind of like I saw Serge Ibaka choke out Marcus Chris. Remember that when he was in Toronto and punched him? He got like 3 games, and I saw a bunch of shit going on. It was funny, but Dre's crazy. To talk about the Warriors, I've been waiting for this shit though. To talk about these scrubs. Listen, dude, it's so bad over there. And Drew, you mentioned it. Joe Star, you talked about it too. Steph is saving this team from being a bottom 3 team in the league. This team they look slow. They're shooting an EFG effective field goal percentage of 46.4.
Oh my God.
No, wait. On wide open shots. This wasn't like this is open which means they are wide open. They're getting the looks. It's just not
that's
going
crazy.
In. Like it's like Klay shoots like Klay has hit more threes than 3 NBA teams, and like this team can't. Like it's like you're watching a team, like, you know how when you sometimes watch a team, you're like, you don't know what, like, that they're getting through their sets. They're getting their shots. They're just not hitting them. And it's like defensively, you can only do so much when you can't consistently stay in games on the offensive end. And, Draymond's out, so the defense is going to plummet. Steph went down with an injury from carrying them so much. So I understand why his knees hurt. Like, he was backpacking the majority of the time. He goes out, and you get good performances. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say everybody's playing bad. AirPods was amazing. Moody, when he actually gets minutes, is amazing.
Now, it's bad when you go on YouTube, look up Warriors highlights. It's not Klay. It's not Draymond. It's not Steph. No, it's AirPod and Jonathan Kuminga.
And AirPods, he was like in that mini game, he was fucking amazing.
Like
he was hooping.
He doing it.
Yeah, he was carrying. And Chris Paul played, even though Chris Paul couldn't score, he was playing good too. It's specifically Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson that are stealing money from the Warriors, and it's insane. It's like,
what about your boy Steve?
Last year was Jordan Poole. This year now it's Klay and
Steve
Wiggins.
Kerr. I don't know, bro. Like Steve's getting investigated too, because like these 4 guard lineups are ridiculous. Like you keep playing Corey Joseph, you're playing Chris Paul, Corey Joseph, and Gary Payton. Then you're playing Corey Joseph, Gary Payton, and like another guard. Like it's like, bro, I understand you're small, but like you got to start trying something else. And I'm not gonna blame it all on Steve Kerr because his rotations has been bad, but there's not much you can do as a coach when your best players aren't hitting open jump shots.
Chris Paul's also really struggled shooting the basketball.
Yeah, but it's like if Klay, this team would be good if Klay and Wiggins were hitting jump shots. Nobody's asking Klay to create. Nobody's asking Klay to just hit open jumpers. And Wiggins the same thing. But if you're not doing that, this team can only go so far. And when Steph comes back, unless they start hitting their open jump shots, there's nothing really that you can fix this Warriors team. Yeah, they were small, but against Minnesota, they didn't get out-rebounded by an extreme amount. Actually, on the offensive glass, they were better against Minnesota. So it's like against Cleveland, that was a bad matchup for sure. But this team isn't going to get better if they're not hitting open jump shots. If Wiggins and Klay are giving you virtually nothing, Steph can only do so much. Probably keep him in a play-in spot. That's pretty much about it, though.
I mean, that seems pretty self-explanatory. You don't hit your open shots, you're not going to win ball games.
Andrew Wiggins is 5 of 37 from 3 this season. He has a team worst -74 on the season. And it's actually crazy the difference in points per game between Steph and the second leading scorer. Steph is averaging 30.7 points per game. Second is Klay Thompson at 13.8 points per game. That's a almost 17-point per game
You should have
difference
stood 10 toes on your Klay.
between the first and
stand.
second option on the
This
team.
shit never left. Y'all
Well,
thought
I came ready with the numbers. Wiggins, Klay, Kuminga combined is less than 6 points per game more than Steph Curry by himself on atrocious splits, like 40, 18,
brother,
80
man.
Are you gonna
splits.
make a
Like
call?
it's disgusting.
listen, I'm calling Toronto right now. Like, yo, I need OG. I need Siakam. we need to make
OG
some,
and Siakam.
for sure.
Because
Because
I
I
switch it up.
listen, Bob Myers is not there. He can't save you either. Warriors
He put
historically,
you in this
But
hole.
I think that's
Not necessarily.
that could
He
be a
just traded
positive.
Poole.
That could be a
Yeah.
positive though
I
because he
think
doesn't have that
Sarge has been
attachment to
good for
players.
them.
but that's what I'm saying. But I think
Sarge has
Sarge
been
has
good.
been
Sarge is
Yeah.
good depending on who he plays
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
which is Kerr's fault. But I think Dunleavy, Warriors historically have never known to make like any trade, like big
Mhm.
trades or major
You haven't
trades.
had to.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So you're
saying. So
saying
now,
Kerr is a bad coach.
He's not a bad.
no, that
Fraud
is
watch.
Fraud
Oh
watch
my
for
god.
sure. Is
But
he-
you've been saying this for
You have-
some time.
Years.
I'm
Nah,
not
I'm
just
saying-
saying
I'm
this
not- I'm
off
not saying
of
he's a
this
bad
season.
coach. But I'm
troll.
just
You're
saying
saying
like
troll for
he
sure.
has been
Because you
trolling.
said Darvin Ham and him in that series. It's like, hey, it's not like
Kerr
Darvin-
wasn't out coaching Darvin Ham
He wasn't.
at all.
He wasn't.
I think we openly saw that. He wasn't running like you see what Spo did
Uh-huh.
to age, like you see
Yeah.
what Spo did to Missoula and what he did like that.
It was a dominating
Kerr,
performance.
that's when Kerr. You expect that from a guy who has 4 rings, but then when you look at it, it's like, oh well, Darvin Ham isn't doing good.
But don't you think you're being a little bit too critical, given that you just said that they were missing open shots?
No, I've been pretty openly destroying Andrew Wiggins and
No,
Klay.
it was me asking the question.
actually-
No, I know, but I'm saying about Steve Kerr
He's
because
also
you know,
playing Corey Joseph.
Steve Kerr can't.
That's
No,
what I'm saying. I don't think
Kerr-
he's hating on
no,
Kerr.
Kerr
I asked
doesn't-
him.
Kerr gets about 20% of the blame. I don't give Kerr like Curry lineups could be better. It could for sure. His rotations could definitely
Corey
be better.
Joseph can never.
Yeah, I
He
can't
could
keep
get
seeing him,
waived
bro.
tomorrow.
What
Yeah.
did Frank say? He said if it was up to him, he'd have Corey Joseph super glued to the seat.
But I think you gotta really like. I think this all like, and it's funny because they all jumped at Poole, and they all like people bash
Scapegoated,
Poole.
kind
He
of.
was a scapegoat for sure, but Poole wouldn't do this. Like he's like this is embarrassing.
But this
Like,
was the same issue you had in the
Poole
playoffs
wouldn't
against
do
the
what?
Lakers.
missed this many open jumpers. I swear to God, he wouldn't.
I mean, he
did
had
last year.
stretches. I mean, in the playoffs last year.
No,
it was bad.
playoff. We're talking about we got to get there first. You
I know,
lose
but I'm saying
jumpers.
last year, this was the same issue you guys had last year. You're like, we just got to hit our open jump shots. We're 10
No.
games in, you can't open jump
last
shots.
year was the bench was shitty.
But against the Lakers, you
And you
guys
lost
also
all
couldn't hit
of
open jump
playoffs.
shots.
Yeah, but we're in November. I'm not even thinking about April right now. I got to get past January and all this shit. Like now, it's like your next bet. Like you mentioned it, 13 points per game. That's fucking embarrassing.
as their second leading scorer.
Last game or 2 games ago was the first time we had another 20-point score outside of Steph. We like 7-8 games in.
Yeah.
So it's like, will Dunleavy make a move? Probably.
There's
doubt it.
just not enough
think-
offensive firepower on this team to be able to have any sort of faith or faith in them to make any sort of run this year.
This is an average team, and it's an average team because Steph is making them average. If it's not for Steph, they're below average.
Shout out to my guy,
You know,
man.
you mentioned a lot of the problems with Golden State. They can't hit shots right now. I want to kind of talk about this Draymond thing because Steve Kerr wasn't happy with him after he talked about the incident. And usually, you know, when these altercations happen, you have the coach saying he was in the right for defending his teammate. Usually it's defending your player for,
How could you
you
defend
know,
Draymond?
for
There's
defending his teammate in that way.
no way, nothing you could spin.
Steve Kerr said it was inexcusable what Draymond Green did, which we all understood it was inexcusable what he did because Rudy Gobert looked like the person who was trying to break up the fight. He did not look like he was trying to, you know, harm Klay in any way, and Draymond just came out of nowhere. And for some
He came
reason,
fast. Too,
Draymond
like,
has had this vendetta.
Yeah, he was
against
ready.
Rudy Gobert
I
for a
wish he was my
while.
brother, huh? I'm so sorry. I meant like, you know what I'm saying? Like he seen Rudy and he didn't even get Rudy some. He, boom. It's like, listen, I wish Drake was my brother. I was outside, like you know.
No, he's a he. Listen,
Yeah,
he was there
he's
with
a
him.
shooter for
He
sure.
was there with him.
I think it's very telling that Steve Kerr didn't defend his action, even to like a little bit. He didn't defend it at all. And I think in the past, you know, he has defended Draymond Green, but I think at this point, they're kind of getting a little bit tired of his antics.
Yeah, he's
They
old as
are
shit doing that.
because he's consistently doing this. Last year, it was punching Jordan Poole. Now this year, it's choking out, you know,
Can't
Rudy
forget
Gobert,
stomping
Sabonis.
Sabonis in the playoffs.
stomping Sabonis.
Yeah.
I thought Rudy Gobert's comment on the situation was perfect.
He fried him.
When he
He did
said
fry him.
every time Steph doesn't play, he doesn't want to play without his guy Steph. So he does anything he can to get ejected. Draymond has been ejected 11 times in the last 5 years. Steph didn't play in 7 of those games. This year, Draymond has been on the floor for 200 minutes this season, and 195 of those minutes have been with Steph. So 97.5% of his minutes have been with Steph. Understandable. You shared the core with them. But I think Rudy's response to this was perfect. And just watching Golden State play these younger teams like a Minnesota, like OKC, their age shows. Because Minnesota outruns them, OKC outruns them. They just look far more active. And I think that's the major problem with Golden State. And I think it poses the question of, is this current Warriors front office and regime doing a disservice to Steph Curry's championship hopes by not making a move, by staying too committed to the trio of Steph, Klay, and Draymond?
Only one of those guys got to go.
And it's Klay.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question though?
Talk to me.
To backpack off the conversation that you're trying to have right now, Joel. We saw the trio win a championship 2 years removed. Now, we understand that Klay wasn't the same Klay that we knew him in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, or shit, even 2019 before the torn ACL in that game 6. But again, we saw him play really high-level basketball last year. He had one of his best regular seasons, period. You weren't anticipating him to come out the gates this bad. Nobody was projecting that. The way that the Golden State Warriors started, we had conversations about, hey, were we too harsh on Golden State coming into the year? Or should we put some more respect on their name because now they got rid of one of their problems and now their team chemistry's back to being to what it is? But in the reality of it, it's, hey, this guy is there. Let me not just say this guy, just singling out Klay Thompson. Everyone not named Steph Curry has been struggling. So.
And Draymond.
Okay, yes, and Draymond when he's been on the court for sure. But again, when you're not on the court, that becomes a huge problem. Yeah. But you're 100% right. Draymond's been able to play very high level basketball, play his level of basketball, but also limiting turnovers, which has been a huge part for or a huge reason why they were an issue last year. But again, I don't think it's a disservice because you look at this Golden State Warriors. Yes, they're 2 years removed from competing. Jordan Poole was at a different level too. So it was hard to replicate that when he wasn't playing that same level of basketball. But they've tried to put things in place for Steph Curry to have things around him to succeed. You weren't anticipating Wiggins to play this poorly. You weren't anticipating Klay to play this poorly. You weren't anticipating Jordan Poole to fall off the cliff like he did. You see him playing meaningless basketball over there in Washington. It seems like he doesn't even care anymore. No one was anticipating this coming off the championship.
You think last year they tried to build the best team around Steph to win a title?
I think they tried to run it back.
To be fair, you were coming off a chachampionship,
but they didn't run it back.
Drastic move.
What was the difference in lineup? You didn't. Otto Porter was gone. Gary,
you lost,
but
Gary
you got
Payton,
him back.
Otto,
yeah,
Bielitsa. You pretty much lost the vets, which has been the most important part of Golden State winning titles.
But losing Otto, he was a very
and they're not like
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not like, but like
the
core
was still the same.
Yeah, but the core was fine last year.
It was,
which is why I'm saying, like, do you think they like? Do you think
down
they
the stretch, the core was what screwed you? Jordan Poole couldn't hit shots.
Now,
Thompson couldn't hit shots.
And I'm also not throwing this on you because you're not the only one that believed this. But the belief last season was, all right, Moody, now it's your time to shine. Year 2.
For sure. No,
Kuminga, now it's more time for more minutes for you as well.
That was the hope because going into the season, you let these guys go to give these other guys room to grow. So it's like, all right.
You can't forget about Wiseman either, who was a bust.
Yeah, you had like you win a chip, you get that championship experience. You expect these young players, okay, we can run it back, right? Then it doesn't happen. Now this year, you mentioned that we were playing good in the beginning, but Klay and Wiggins were still struggling.
They were.
So it's like Joel posed a good question. I've been seeing it a lot on Twitter. Like, are you doing a Steph a disservice? I mean, if you have a top 4 player in the world playing at still his best, he's 35, 36. Like, how many years are we going to see Steph want to play basketball in the league still at this high level? Like, I think we got about 2-3 years. He'll be 36 next year in March.
Listen, don't limit him. Don't limit him.
No, it's not
right
even
now.
But he has openly admitted that he doesn't want to play. Like, he doesn't want to play too long in the NBA. So it's like at a high level, he'll keep it there. But if he even sees a scenario of decline, he'll probably just retire.
Well, when's that happening?
Listen, man, 38 is crazy.
I think
the splits are ridiculous. I'm just saying it's hard to imagine.
Yeah. Are we going to have him sitting in first and second round exits all the time? Or you build a championship team?
It's
think-
hard to just. I'm
yes.
sorry, Joel, but it's hard to just do that like that.
They had opportunities this offseason to make moves.
Like what though?
They could have.
Got Siakam.
They could have
got
signed.
OG.
How, but
I don't know
what
about
could you have
that.
gotten Siakam?
I don't know about that.
They was in a play for. Not,
That's
let me
a
not say in
reach.
play. They had they were in
Was
talks. for some
Toronto
second.
gonna take
That's the thing.
Jordan Poole for
This isn't.
OG?
No, it was like Wiggs, Kuminga.
This isn't a huge move, but I think they could have signed a player like Reggie Bullock, who the Rockets signed off the
Wouldn't have been
buyout
terrible.
market.
Mhm.
And I think Reggie Bullock, he's not like a fucking star, but he's a role player that's going to defend and he's going to hit threes. And I think right now you can argue that with the amount of open shots that Andrew Wiggins has missed,
Shit's
Reggie
brick.
Bullock could have been better than what Andrew Wiggins is currently putting out right now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
but
think
you expect
just a
Wiggins to bounce
move
back.
like that, it's not a huge needle mover, but it's just getting better on the margins. And I think it's on the front office, but I also don't want to remove Steph from this blame because I think Steph,
Oh shit. Okay.
and this is why you guys all eyes are wide.
I'm with it.
But I think Steph Curry is ultra loyal to Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. And I think any trade involving Klay Thompson, who's his splash brother, has to get co-signed by Steph. And I don't know if Steph is co-signing a Klay trade. So if Steph doesn't want to co-sign that trade, he himself is putting himself in
That's
a
true.
situation and not maximizing
Yeah.
this current Warriors team.
Okay, good. I thought you were going somewhere else. We're here.
I
We're here.
think one thing I'd be curious about is if the front office had used the picks that were used on Moody, Kuminga, and Wiseman, which felt at the time like it was going to take a second for those guys to get to the level of contributing where like a winning basketball team could really use them. If they used those picks instead on players like a Jaime Hawkins, Keegan Murray, Christian Brown brings to mind for me as a Nuggets fan, older guys who would be able to help contribute to a winning team sooner. I would be curious what this Warriors team looks like. And I feel like that's definitely something that you can kind of lay at the feet of the front office is like, we don't have, we can't straddle rebuilding and maximizing Steph's window. You have to pick one and nothing's going on right now.
And I feel
Definitely
like-
shot for upside. You
Yeah,
guys are going for upside.
and I feel like
Kuminga,
but I feel like
Wiseman.
they did that last draft, and now you got to figure out where does Brandon and Travis like where do they fit? Because when they play winning basketball. Like they are the guys that are the 3-year players that know how to hoop. I mean, we just seen Brandon have a better game than Wiggins has had all year. We seen TJ Dick. He can switch out 1 through 5. Like he's good on the glass. Like he's a Kevon Looney replacement because Looney his hip and all that he fucked up.
It's tough.
But yeah, it's tough for my boy. Shout out to him though.
I think that's a great point because at the time when they drafted James Wiseman, the other center was Onyeka Okongwu out of USC, who was more of an NBA-ready prospect, but they took upside with Wiseman. With the 7th overall pick,
Couldn't have
they
anticipated
took
Wiseman to be that bad.
Kuminga, who was drafted with the 8th overall pick. It was Franz Wagner. When they drafted Moody with the 14th overall pick, who went just a couple picks later?
Who did go?
Trey Murphy.
Well,
with the Pelicans.
Damn, that'd be
really?
nice.
Moody, they don't be trusted.
I like
bro.
Moody. I like.
He's the
honestly,
only one that I should stay. I swear to God.
We were having this conversation last night. It's like, hey, of the two, who's more reliable for you on the Golden State
It's Moody.
Warriors, with Kuminga or Moody?
Hey,
it's
listen,
Moody.
That hurts.
Warriors could have also
Nah,
had.
it doesn't
Alperen
hurt 'cause
Sengun.
No,
Moody's-
but he's the big Kuminga.
Kuminga's my guy, but I will always choose Steph Chip over any
Of
fucking.
course,
I
I
don't
know,
give a
I
fuck
know.
about all that.
Warriors could have also drafted Alperen Sengun.
Mm.
I mean, there was a lot of players in that draft that they passed
Sengun
up
would have
on.
been a weird one. for
I
sure.
like the Moses Moody pick. The Kuminga pick, I thought he developed nicely under Golden State. It's really the Wiseman pick that was kind of an eye raiser because he only played 1 game in college and then he was
It
out.
was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, he didn't play much in college and he was a very raw center. It felt like Onyeka just fit them more.
But
Yeah.
I feel like at the time, maybe my mind is playing games on me. But at the time of the draft, people were extremely high on Jonathan Kuminga. In between, it was Scotty
The
Barnes
upside.
and Jonathan Kuminga.
It was
correct.
always gonna take time. Like he was like I don't know if you guys remember Jaylen Brown came out. He was like the raw talent coming out. Like, yo, if you develop him right, he can be. So it was kind of like the same thing. Like you take the reach, you develop him, and that's why for Boston it's perfect. He didn't have to start right away, And Kuminga, you would expect like he didn't have to start, but maybe we just don't have those type of vets to where it's like they develop properly, or like this is not a develop. This is like no, you bring in guys that are kind of already developed here, and then you just teach them the way, But with Kuminga, you got to develop him here and here. Moody, that's why Moody's so good. He was developed, so it was just like, all right, get the skill out, all that stuff, and he'll be good. So same thing with Brandon, same thing with Davis. They're already developed here, so they've been thriving in the system. So it's like Now you got some decisions to make because you got Chris Paul, who outside of scoring, I think he's been fine. He just can't score, but the playmaking and stuff has been good. You got Moody, you got Gary Payton, like you got all these small guards on the bench. When are you going to decide to put Klay or Wiggins on the bench? You know what I'm
No,
saying?
it's never
I
happening.
think you have to wait for at least Andrew Wiggins.
6 and
You-
7. Bro.
I know it's not great, but you've seen Andrew Wiggins play at such a high level, and Klay too. But we talked about this last night. Klay is obviously getting up there in age, the injuries. He's not the same player defensively, and if his shot's not falling, what is Klay Thompson doing out on the basketball court?